Allison James, staff liaison, and Ken Lish, chair on call-in phone.
Mark Lasis, trustee
Hi,
liaison.
Hey, Ken. Okay, so any public comment? I don't think so, but you're welcome to it if you'd like. Okay, so we'd like to introduce Karen and help me. Snortland. Thank you.
Like
just want to make sure I get that right. So, welcome,
Norwegian.
Karen.
Yes, thank you. My name is Karen Snortland, like he said, and I am the new committee coordinator for the town of Superior. And I will be, you've seen some emails from me already, and I'm going to be supporting the staff liaisons for all of the committees that sit within the Parks and Recreation Department. So I will do everything except for the Planning Commission. That doesn't sit within Parks and Recreation. I've been on the job for a month now, so I'm here. I worked for the City of Lafayette for 8.5 years prior to this, and then a year and 3 months at the City of Federal Heights. So I'm very familiar with municipal government work, and we always have worked in the Parks and Rec Department. So very excited to be here in the town of Superior. So I just wanted to come tonight to let you guys know, and just so you could put a face with the emails and let you know what I'm working on as part of my first project is a survey that will be going out to all of the committees and the staff liaisons, and it just kind of is going to give me an idea of where the committees are at right now, just kind of give me some feedback on how you feel committees are running, what you would like to see as far as recruitment goes. It's going to be a pretty short survey. It's not going to be anything that's going to be extensive, but we are hoping to get some honest feedback from you, because I hope to be able to use this survey and this feedback as I put together a manual for some different guidelines and some different policies and procedures to go across the board for all committees in the town of Superior, which to me is kind of exciting. When I started working here, I found out that the committees have been around for 20-some years with no such guidelines. And through my research, I'm finding out that the city of Fort Collins, other cities around here have positions just like mine that manage the committees and have created and put into use an onboarding program. So when new committee members come on, we go through some training and some different onboarding exercises so that committee members kind of can hit the ground running and not just come to meetings and just kind of get a feel for the land and then kind of be a part of the committee itself. So when you do see that email, it'll be in June sometime. I'm spending the month of May attending all of the committee meetings so everyone can kind of get to know me a little. But when you do see that survey, please be as honest as possible. Like I said, I hope to be able to use this to put those policies in place, and I'm going to be writing a committees and commissions manual that will be available for everyone as well. So, and I'll be utilizing your feedback in writing that manual. So that's pretty much all I had. I'm really excited to be here. If you ever want to reach out to me, you can find my email online. If you have any questions, committee related, I've been doing lots of research on policies and procedures and guidelines and how different committees are being run in the surrounding communities. So I'm real excited about putting all of this in place and being a support for the staff liaisons as well.
So Allison, the staff liaison, and Karen, the staff liaison stay the same then? And
yes.
Then you are, okay.
Yep, and I'm actually the staff liaison for the ACES committee.
Okay.
So Martin will just do his assistant town manager business, and he's helping me quite a bit get acclimated to the ACES committee, but I will be the staff liaison directly for the ACES committee.
And then just
Supporting everyone else.
Fabulous.
And,
Yeah.
and one item we've had communication with already was to get bullets on committee activity, like 4 bullets that it goes in. Is it the PROS news?
Yes, it'll go in the PROS newsletter every month, and that was one thing that I kind of felt needed a little bit more celebration and a little bit more advertising on what our committees are actually doing. I'd love to be able to get out I mean, you guys are doing fantastic work, and we need to be able to get that out there. And that is going to be a part of my recruitment process as well, by getting out to the community what you guys are working on. Then people are going to be like, wow, I want to be a part of that too, hopefully.
So for the committee
yeah.
members, that's why you see this on this updates and look ahead on the agenda. These were the ones we submitted previously, and at the end of each meeting, we should make sure that we still think that these are the right ones for the next newsletter. So.
Yep. So these ones that you have right here are actually going to go out in the newsletter this coming Friday.
Okay.
So these are for May.
Yep.
So each meeting you'll kind of put together a new set of bullet points. So for June you'll want to have maybe, I mean, you can continue on and speak about these bullet points again or update them. But if there's anything new or upcoming that you're working on, you'll want to add those to your bullet points as well.
And is the newsletter always the?
It's around the 10th of the month.
10th, okay.
Yep. So I had asked that all the committee members have the bullet points to me by the 5th of every month, so I can get them to Katie Rummel, who puts the newsletter together on the 7th, and then she distributes it on the 10th.
Okay.
So our meeting is just after that, so we just have to decide, do we want to do it at the meeting? But it might be, 20 days. It's pretty early, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's probably the easiest thing to do since we're together. And if, I don't know, maybe we send them out and then we
Or at
check
least
at the
check,
end or
at least
something.
talk about them.
Yeah,
Say
I mean, we
what
can circulate them
week
via
is. Yeah.
email and then, get them in towards the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah, we could do
Yeah.
that too, so.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to make it as easy as possible for you guys, but I do want to be able to get out to the community what you're doing.
I mean, we'll talk about it at the end, but I think it'll be pretty easy for us to come up with accomplishments for May, because we got a lot coming up this month, or before the next one goes out.
Right.
With National Trails Day, with getting our summary report,
Done. Yep.
done and published, getting, I forget his name, but the Justin in, that might be something we want to promote, because people may be interested in attending if we're doing that. So I think, well, this will be
Absolutely.
pretty easy for us.
Yeah,
but
yeah, and there'll be
it's
some
exciting.
timing, logistics to work out, but yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Very good.
Well, based on that, you have a topic
Yes.
you would like to address with us. This was agenda item 7. We just wanted to move it up since it made sense, since Karen's going to be running the committee coordination around the cemetery. It made sense to move that up right after your
Yep,
introduction. So-
absolutely. So this is going to be one of my projects that my supervisor, Patrick Hammer, has asked me to work on with Brian Meyer. Brian is the staff liaison for the Historic Committee. And it came up at their last Historic Committee meeting that Trustee Dozell would like to put together a working committee. And when we met, we decided that it would be best to go to our current committees first and see if anyone on any of the current committees would be interested in sitting on this temporary working committee for the cemetery restoration. So that we're just kind of opening it up to see if anyone has any interest, and then once anyone shows any interest, then we'll put you on an email distribution list that will get you information about when meetings will be, what the information is that we're discussing, and things of that nature.
Do you have an estimate of...
Sharon, can I ask
Go ahead, Ken.
I was going to ask a question. So I know that the Historical Commission has been very involved with the cemetery. Is this looking at more as they would be taking the lead with assistance from additional people, or is this going to be a standalone ad hoc committee?
No, what you said is absolutely correct. The Historical Commission is very interested in taking the lead on this project. We're just looking to see if there's anyone else who would like to support them in their efforts.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a feeling how frequent the meetings would be and about the duration of the project?
So I know that the budget money is within this year
Okay.
to work on that project. I don't know that the project is going to be completed this year, and the frequency of meetings, I wouldn't see. I mean, that none of that has been decided as of yet, but I wouldn't see it being, more than like once a month.
Okay. So probably a year in duration potentially.
Yes.
So 12 meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So have we established scope of work on
Yep.
what it is, or that's all part of the
Yep.
committee's decisions and?
Yep, that's all. And I know that the Historical Commission does have some ideas of where they'd like to go. They've already been up to the site. They've taken a look at the area. They have ideas of where they would like to go, but the exact scope of work has not been determined.
So are you looking for volunteers now? Or
Yeah, so I
should
mean,
we-
if you want to think it over and shoot me an email or let Allison know, that would be absolutely fine.
Okay.
But we do want to find out from our current committees, and I believe we're looking at ProStac, OSAC, CAPS, and those are the only 3 committees that we're looking at currently to see if anyone from those committees are interested.
Okay.
So yeah, so.
I may be interested, so if you could send me more information when you
Okay.
get it, that'd be helpful. If no one else from Open Space is interested, I think it might be nice to have maybe one of us on there. If we
Perfect.
can swing it.
Awesome. That sounds great.
I'm also interested, but I have a little caveat. I have to step off in June.
Okay.
So I'll just put that there, because it might be if you're, if you want it to be a current member that's
Okay.
staying on,
Sh-
but if you end up needing
I'd be
people-
happy to take over for you in June.
So, but I'll just put that there, because it
Okay.
seems like an interesting project.
So
Perfect.
Based on that, is June your last meeting, or is this your last meeting?
June is
June.
my last
Oh, okay.
meeting, because I think we're going with June as my last meeting.
Okay.
We'll just say it
Okay.
that way, because. Yeah, I'll be there for National
okay.
Trails Day, and then be there for the
June meeting.
the June meeting, the recap of National Trails, but pushing it past the 30th would be then
Okay.
beyond the terms.
So on that note, Karen, I know you're going to be kind of prepping in May, and then when are you going to start working on recruitment, just because we're going to be quite low in numbers?
Yes,
then?
absolutely. So we've actually already had 2 interviews for
Mhm.
OSAC, and those appointments go before the board on the 14th of this month. So pending that approval, you will have 2 new members at that point. And then we updated not necessarily updated, we added my name and an application on the committee page, and I've already received 3 interests. Now, 2 of those were for ProStac and 1 was for any committee. So people are finding out about my position and sending in applications. June 11th is when the reappointments happen. So once that reappointment period happens in June, then we'll be doing our big recruitment pushes after that.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, welcome
Perfect.
and thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Nice to meet all of you. Thank you.
Great. Okay, the next topic is National Trails Day planning. So, Allison, I guess start with, what do you need? Or are we good?
I think we're in a really good place right now. All the vendors have committed to our timeline that we wanted. We did a little bit of juggling, and the wagon company for the wagon trail rides, she's ready to go, and I've talked logistics with her, so she knows all the ins and outs of that situation. And I have the Boulder County Rangers opening gates, and we have phone numbers, so everybody should, if they didn't get that phone number, it would be great, I think, if a few of us went ahead and put it in our cell phones, so that if anything happens, we can give them a call quickly, depending on what's going on, because it gets kind of busy out there. And I know that Ken is going to go to Costco and get some of the snacks and drinks and the raffle items, but everything's falling into place. And in the newsletter, we've got our advertising done, which we worked on last meeting, and so our advertising will be going out, and it's on the website, and we're ready to go.
Exciting. A couple items I had, or I was thinking of, I put together that one talking paper on e-bikes, so I don't know, either we should print that out and have it there so we can refer to it if people ask, or maybe we send them out before. It's probably easier just to have it and you can reference it while we're there. But Joel, the other thing that came up at the last meeting was thinking of doing a similar one for the Rocky Mountain Greenway. Just having a one-pager with some points, if you'd be willing to pull that together for us.
Yeah, I think we'll get a lot of questions with that. It's in the news, and it's summer when people are getting out, so that's an easy thing to put together.
Okay.
I think it'd be a good idea to have it there.
I just know I think we're all passionate about talking about why we think it's a bad idea, but having our facts straight, I think it would be really important, because if we're, I'm not as confident talking about it in generalities.
Well, I think it also helps to have a similar message regardless of
Yep.
who's there, and so
Agreed.
And if you want to send me those items to laminate, so, if you only
Perfect.
have one piece of paper and it's getting dog-eared from however many people, I'd be happy to laminate it for you, and then we could, tape it to your table or whatever. So just let me know.
Awesome.
I'll put together preliminary stuff, circulate it around, and then we can refine them.
Cool. Yeah, and we'll talk about it more in our standing updates, because there's been some interesting
Absolutely.
Updates since our last meeting on that. So I guess, Karen, one question for you is that we talked about actually having OSAC or committee applications at the event. Is that do you think that's too soon with where your recruitment push is? I mean, is that
so
going to?
this is June 3rd.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. That would be great. And we have a new application that we can get
Okay.
printed off for you to have there. That would actually be perfect.
Okay, so.
We talked about having clipboards with
Yep.
them.
Yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah,
just want to
that's
make
a
sure that
great
was in the
idea.
plan, and it's a great idea. I could just see us showing up, and I would forget to do that. So, Allison, does that sit on your list of things to do?
Sure,
Okay,
no problem.
thank you very much. Awesome. Well, it'll be my first one, so I'm excited. I've been out.
You've been traveling.
I was always family vacation
Show
time.
up for
Yeah.
courses.
Yeah. Well, no, we didn't take family vacation that week specifically for this, so I'm
Oh,
excited.
okay.
The
Yeah,
kids
it's the
are
first year I'll
excited.
make too. I've been on vacation the last 2 or 3 years. So
Nice. It's a good time.
Oh,
Sprinklers are held?
Oh, yeah, everything is on the
Okay.
calendar.
Alright.
Everybody's invited to bring trash cans, and
Oh.
the event crews bring tables and tents, and parks all scheduled to have sprinklers turned off, including, parking signs and all of that stuff for the northeast corner.
Yep.
All right.
Parking, extra overflow parking. Good job, Alex.
Well, it sounds awesome. Yeah, kudos. Great job.
Yeah.
We're good at it now. I don't know, it's like old hat for you.
Well, and kudos to Sean for being persistent on the carriage. I think that's going to be a cool addition this year. And I shouldn't just say Sean and Allison, but thank you for. Should be fun.
We should get, do we have any signs about, I'm thinking you and I had to do a lot of directing about dogs.
Oh, yeah.
Should we try to do maybe 1 or 2 signs that say, like, try to walk your dogs on the left, like.
Well, what we're going to do this year, because we're going to have this wagon going through, is I've asked our park staff to mark out for the tent further towards the pavilion to
Okay.
be away from the trail, because the birds of prey, just with people and dogs walking by, let alone a big noisy carriage with horses.
Okay, so they'll be moved over. Okay,
Yeah.
because we did, and I'm sure we'll still have to do, folks want to see the birds, but then they have their dog, then they try to scoot a little closer.
Well, we could
And the
put
birds don't like.
a couple of signs on either, the 3 sides of the tent, like dogs stop here or something.
We might want to do, I'm
We
thinking
can.
about it, because just if we're not
That'd be nice, then we don't have
paying
to waste our
attention, like,
energy.
it just kind of helps out, I think, for folks to not upset the birds.
Yeah, that's easy.
Oh, that'd be great,
Okay.
Allison. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good suggestion.
All right. Well, let's hope there's good weather.
What time should we have people show up to help get everything set up? I can't remember, what time do we have the Hot Quest people coming in?
They start at 9, right?
So I think a 30-minute setup has been pretty decent in the past. We could do like 45 minutes ahead of time to be on the safe side, but if we have people show up at like 8:15, that should give us enough time to get everything set up.
Is that all we've used in the past is 30 minutes? I thought it was been longer than that.
No, not for the, we've stood around a lot, you know.
Have we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it goes pretty quick, especially now with the big tent already set up, like,
Yeah.
since we don't have to do that one. You basically have to roll those cement things down the hill.
Yeah, and then you have to
Set
still
up
set
the
up all those-
tables.
Cement things?
Other
Like
So we-
anchors?
thingies.
The anchors,
Yeah.
nobody picks them up, we just roll them down the hill.
We have the bike ride scheduled at 8:15, and Hot Quest begins at 9. And traditionally, I think everybody's come at like 8:30.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh, Okay.
Mhm.
So if we
So
start.
maybe we should start at 8. That way we can direct people for the bike ride as they
Yeah.
get there.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea.
Mm.
And do you want, how would you want to do it? Who do you want to come for setup and for takedown? In the past, we've just done whoever can make what.
We could send out an email to everybody to see who can make what. I can probably do both this year. I mean, we can go around the table right now if you guys want to.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm available for both.
I'll be there all day, because my boys are they wanna see the snakes.
Mhm.
They like the hawks, and they're gonna wanna take the horseback riding ride, so I'll be there the whole morning.
I'm planning on being there the whole day. I'll definitely be there in the morning. The bike ride at 8:15, so I'll, be over there earlier than probably most.
Are you leading the bike ride?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Oh, my
Nice.
gosh.
Nice.
That's cool. I'll be there for both.
I've been practicing.
You've been practicing all your stuff?
And anyone know about Sean? I don't know what his
I don't know.
We'll
what
check
his
in email.
status
Yeah.
is.
And we'll have 2 new
Yeah,
members
either
hopefully
way,
by
it sounds
then.
like we're pretty good. We got a
Yeah.
lot of people that are going to be there for both. This is great.
Yeah.
Joel, were you thinking about training people on the toolkit for the?
I think I'm going to probably bring like, a repair stand and just do a simple talk like, trail side fixes, changing a flat, things like that. And then you talk about, like I said, I'm trying to see if we can get some bells that we can just install there at the station. It's held up now between Boulder County and the Mountain Bike Patrol, but I'm working on seeing if we can have a box full of bells there.
Can I go on a quick tangent about bikes, since we're gonna have the information about the e-bikes? I was on that trail, I don't know when, a couple weeks ago, and there was one of those like stand-up things.
Oh, like a
The
Segway?
elliptical thing?
Yes,
Segway.
but very high speed.
Oh, a Segway.
Going up the hill and and he had kind of a fancier GoPro camera on. I don't know if, I don't know what was going on, but it was really interesting to see. So if you learn anything
Huh.
about that, that might be good information. I
Are
felt
they
like
allowed up there?
Anything motorized shouldn't be allowed on Boulder County unless you have a disability.
Unless you're disabled somehow.
The tricky part is you can't ask somebody,
If they're,
what is your
I-
disability? So
Yeah.
it's kind of a gray area.
I would leave that to a
But
ranger.
maybe someone was doing a mapping project
that's what it
or
felt
something.
like to me, but I don't,
Google
anyway.
has mapped in the past, but they use a backpack.
Yeah, they usually walk, but
Yeah.
maybe someone, huh?
different
Well,
type
it's
of,
interesting to ask
you know, for
when
those
we-
treadmills and stuff where you can see the trails.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe it was something like that. But anyway, just a side tangent.
Interesting. Okay. Okay, are we good for National Trails Day? All right, exciting.
Also, the Center for Snake Conservation, he agreed to stay as long as the kids were interested in touching the snakes. He's just
So nice.
such a joy to work with.
That's awesome.
Fun. Okay, well, you guys want to talk about trails and rankings?
Let's do it. Dive
All
off
right,
into deep
let's
end.
do it. I think that from what I talked to Ken about, what we should do is see the priority that we came up with and just see if we think that this is the right priority. I mean, I looked at it, and we all are really close in our rankings. Some things did move around a bit from last year, but I think we should just go through it. So Shan Shan is one. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone since it's a pretty major piece of our work plan. The soft trail connection, maybe I'll just make this a little bit bigger so people can see it. Soft surface along McCaslin to Rock Creek. Okay, so up along McCaslin.
Mhm.
Allison or Mark in the board, in the board packet for next Monday, there's a a paving bid. Does that paving bid include the sidewalk along Caslin? Do either of you know? Or will that just be something that comes out in that meeting?
I think it does. That was originally planned for last year, and there was an issue with the bidding process, so that's why it got moved to this year. I believe at that point in time, I haven't looked through the board. I'm actually looking through some of it right now, and I haven't spent the time on that part of the agenda yet to tell
Okay.
you for sure. But I think last year it definitely had the sidewalk component, so I assume it does. Maybe Allison, maybe no.
I had a follow-up item on that, and what I have written was that if the streets project is approved by the board this year, that it would go forward this year.
Okay. And is that all the way up to Rock Creek Parkway along McCaslin, or does it stop at where the Rock Creek Trail? I mean, is it 100 yards, or is it like
I think it goes
quarter
from the
mile?
roundabout all the way up to Rock Creek Park.
Oh, okay, great.
So if that happens, then
This would be complete.
this would be complete.
Yeah?
And, okay.
Yep.
So for clarity, I mean, we have soft surface trail here, but it sounds like we're
It would
talking
be
about a
hard,
paved trail.
yeah.
Yeah, I think we would want to, well, I don't think we should amend this, but yes, it wouldn't be a soft surface, but a soft
Yeah.
surface doesn't make sense
On a hill.
adjacent to that and
Yeah.
on a hill and all the reasons that, yeah, that's a
Well,
bad
and,
idea.
and there's a soft surface trail, 90
Yeah.
feet to your right. So
Exactly.
if you want soft surface, you could still do it.
Okay. The next one was Single Tree to the Coal Creek Regional. This is the trail that goes, I always forget this one, but this is the one that goes from basically where we're sitting over to the Rock Creek Parkway, or Rock Creek Trail, through the Rogers property. So instead of looping around on McCaslin right out here, it would be something over the river, from what I understood, and then hook up into the regional trail over there. So that one, it makes sense with Shan Shan. I actually rated it a little bit lower just because it's hard to know what we can do there until that, I think it's hard to know what we can do there until that development plan gets figured out. Because it would either have to be part of that, or, I mean, we'd have to own the land to do that, right?
I thought where they wanted to put it is owned by Boulder County. I thought there's that little strip of land that Boulder County owns.
That little strip, I think, is blocked by the roundabout, though.
And
No.
I think
Is
the
it?
problem is access right now. Like
Yeah.
the access, I think, is owned by the owner of Rogers Farm. So.
Yeah, it's like a weird, but I actually think they own where they want to put that trail. I think they actually own it already, right? Or have a right of way or something.
Okay.
One of the things we had talked with ProStack about in the past is this would just be a really good one to work into the development plan. So when the developer does come forward, I know we probably won't be doing concept plans any more, but this would be a good one to say, hey, this would be a really good use of the or good value to the community, or any way we could consider getting it in there. So I think that's where we had kind of paused on this in the past, hoping we could work it into Rogers Farm.
Well, and since there's activity there, it does seem reasonable to be pretty high ranking for us to be watching out for.
Yeah, I rank this one higher because currently, to get it, which I do all the time, you come underneath McCaslin on Coal Creek, and then you go through Third over to the gate, and this you cut down the bike traffic through the original town neighborhood there.
So you don't come up and around and along McCaslin. Is it make it the roundabout? Is that what makes that?
I come off the Coal Creek gravel
Right.
trail and then straight under here and pop out in the back side of the parking lot where the old equipment is.
Yeah.
And then go up
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
stop
yeah.
sign, make the left, and then down.
And my guess is most people don't realize that the trail actually loops right outside here, goes over the bridge, and then goes through the roundabout. But that roundabout is tricky
Yeah, I avoided it on a bike.
man.
Yeah.
So, okay. So number 4 was Town Center Trail Connections. I mean, that seems pretty obvious. We're watching that. The other question there was Tract A also included in that construction packet?
So I'm just looking at the memo right now, and under items like 5 and 6 on the cover memorandum for item 4. It says construction of a 10-foot wide concrete trail along the west side of McCaslin from the roundabout to Rocky Parkway, so that answers your
Perfect.
first question. And then item 6 is construction of an 8-foot wide concrete trail on Tract A, formerly part of Discovery Office Park. This will connect the Tract H concrete trail with the McCaslin Trail Network.
Okay, great. So there's another connector that would be going into town center.
So if those get bid on, do we just kind of move those down to the to be completed and kind of rank our things? Like, I kind of look at it as if those are done deals, we should include them in the top 5. We should have
Yeah.
So
2 other ones to kind of replace them, just to.
well, we talked about, was asking Ken about that, and he just said, it's not done. I mean, you could say the same thing about Shan Shan. It's in the budget for next year, but budgets can move around, or this also
Or I
helps
guess
to.
just be prepared to say, so just if that's the case, then we would leave them up there, but then also talk really about items, 6 and 7, to
Mhm.
make sure that they would be ones we would want to move out.
I think until the board approves it, it's not a done deal.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we should
so we could
operate
leave
with the
it up
assumption
there.
that things could change.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 5 is that stretch from McCaslin on the south side to connect down to basically the Colton. Actually, it would connect into about where Calmonte trails are now. There's just no good access along there now. So I think that's always been pretty high, and I think we even submitted that in the expedited trails for the last time we did that. Connection to Davidson Mesa Underpass. That one, let's see. I just need to look at this real quick. I think that's just this little, boy, that's small. That's just this little piece. It's not 14. So,
But 14 is number 8, so.
yeah, I guess 14. Oh, okay. Yeah, so 14's coming right up. So those are pretty much together.
Yep.
Trail on the west side of Calmonte Road connects 1 to, okay. So this, there's a new sidewalk in there now, where they've put it, that's kind of along the creek, that's starting to get those pieces in place. But there still are some missing pieces, and I know Patrick talked to us that the town has looked at various options there on how to get, there's a difficult grade section in there to make it compliant. ADA compliant, right? Is that the right term for that? So a bunch of ideas there, but that's all coming together. So again, I think it's the right priority. The soft trail along the west boundary of Sagamore is 8. The interesting thing there, that I guess, I don't know, we didn't really capture this, but that we don't have it on the map, but there is the trail planned from the RTD station up to the underpass on the north side of Marshall. If I remember right, that's budgeted to be built this year.
That's Dr. Cog money, right? That was like.
Do you know about when that's scheduled?
Well, and I have it in my notes as next year,
Oh, next year,
potentially,
okay.
because there is that grading problem, and
Okay.
everybody's trying to figure it out. There's that guardrail
Yep.
area, especially where it gets very narrow. So.
Okay. So that,
And I think this was also a disconnect that just comes with working between us and ProStack. And we had agreed with ProStack last year to remove Trail 14 from this list, basically because the RTD trail was going to be built, and then everything on 76th Street there already has a sidewalk, I believe is what we determined, and then the sidewalk goes almost all the way up to the trail on the south side and beyond to Sagamore.
Mhm.
So this was something that we were going to remove, but never ultimately got removed. There were a few trails like that on this bill that we re-ranked again.
so Ken, I guess, Michael, I noticed that also. Do you think that's something we take up with ProStack in our leadership meeting to make sure that
Absolutely.
we get these ones that are changed or removed off the list? Okay, I'll keep track of those as we go through this.
Yeah, and I think what we've done is we had sent emails about it last year, but we never actually moved on updating the map or anything like that, and then those emails probably just fell through the cracks. So this year, I think what we need to do is after that leadership meeting, when we decide what to remove from the maps, we update the map then and there. That way it is ready for next year when we do the ranking.
Yeah, I mean, and one thought too is you could leave it on the map. You could just remove it from the spreadsheet.
No, I mean,
Anyway, we'll deal with that in that meeting. We don't need to sidetrack this on that topic. Ranking 9 was, let's see, I didn't miss one here. No, the soft trail on the north side of El Dorado K8 from Indiana to McCaslin. So this one pretty much goes along with trail 1, but I forget, ranked 5. I mean, I don't think this one makes a whole lot of sense without that other trail. So we're talking up here. So it was, connecting in basically to Wildflower Park if the trail on the east side of McCaslin was put in place. We talked originally on that one that we may need to do some community outreach to some residents, that it would go pretty close to their homes in there.
and I thought we did some of that.
I don't know if we ever did we do the outreach?
Yeah, we did do the outreach, and we did hear from one neighbor who was very strongly opposed to it. If this was going to go forward and actually really be considered for construction, I think we'd have to do additional outreach on it.
Okay. All right. The 10th is a trail between Autry Park and the Hodgson Harris Reservoir. I don't have any additional comments on that. That one, maybe I do. I guess that one gets more interesting because it would be a trail to nowhere until the Zaharias, unless Zaharias was developed, and then it would connect through there. But it still might be a nice trail to be looking at the reservoir. You still would need to be pretty far away from the reservoir, but it, could be interesting. That was this one. Rock Creek Regional to a hard surface from Rock Creek Parkway to West Flatiron Circle. So that one's just making sure that there's pretty much concrete all the way through the community park corridor, all the way to the regional bike path, because there's just that one stretch in there, but there's no concrete. So people have to go around if they're on their road bike.
Yeah. See, I ranked that one low because I like the soft surface trails.
I mean, the thing is, though, there is a parallel soft surface trail there back through the Frisbee Golf Course. So there's two trails there. You'd be riding through the Frisbee Golf area.
That's where I normally ride through.
So there's another trail. There's two trails. I don't know I don't think you can see it on the map. And maybe one, sorry, I keep looking at my other computer. Yeah, you can kind of, wrong. So see right here, there's this piece right here that comes, and then there's this offshoot here that you could take on your bike. So, I mean, I don't know.
I know it's one of the things that I personally disagree with but I understand it from a town standpoint. The trend is towards concrete everything for maintenance. I like the soft surface trails, not only for biking but for running as well. But like I said, that's a personal thing.
I agree. That's what I prefer. My only thought is for safety, for someone who doesn't want to ride on a road to get from our community out to the regional trail. Mm-hmm. If that was filled in, they wouldn't have to be on a road pretty much at all to get there, because now they'd have to go up 88th, or they'd have to go up Colton or up Colton.
The 36 bikeway.
Yeah, to get to the bikeway is what I'm saying.
Yeah, you would have to go up 88th or somewhere on McCaslin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay.
Real quick, one thing specifically about this area, the Autry Park area. I don't know if anybody kind of follows what ProStack has going on, but one of the things they've been really hitting on in their meetings is that there needs to be kind of a master plan, for lack of a better word, developed for that area. Right now, there's a lot of stuff slated to go in to Autry Park. I know that there's discussions about bringing the skate park down there, There's discussions that that's the prime spot, I believe, for the pickleball courts. There's discussions about whether or not to leave the disc golf course there. So I think that park in general is probably going to see a lot of interest from ProStack over the coming years, and that's probably something that could work with them on and provide input as it comes forward. But just adding a little background knowledge around this specific trail in that area.
I remember discussing also maybe building a bike park through that Frisbee golf area,
Yeah.
you know, an off-road.
Yeah, Patrick Hammer and I talked about that one day on the trail, actually, and I think he kind of shares the same viewpoint I do. I mean, if anybody's been to Erie, they did a
Yeah.
really great job in a really small area, and lots of families, you know, kids and stuff are out there every Saturday, and I think Patrick and I both see potential there from, you know, a biking standpoint without having to remove anything else. Man, there's no reason it can't go in and around the Frisbee golf course that's existing, in my opinion.
When we did the last, I was there for one of the volunteer things, there was a lot of interest from people who were helping maintain the bike park to extend that into, you know,
Yeah.
to that area. To have it, because it wouldn't take much to build it up and do stuff like you said.
Mm-hmm.
It would be removal of the Frisbee golf, but,
Yep.
you know.
But that's a good.
used but not maintained. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's, I know that ProStack's trying to do a better job, you know, we're all trying to do a better job of that. If you build an amenity, then you have to maintain it, not
Right, yeah.
just acquire and do nothing, you know.
Right. Okay, good point, Ken. Thank you for bringing that up. Soft trail parallel to McCaslin from the water treatment plant to the High Plains Drive. So that was on our expedited plan, but we know from bids that that was really expensive due to the retaining walls that needed to be built. Coal Creek North-South Trail connection to Single Tree. That one's done.
Yep.
So, Ken, maybe we should mark this one as zeros since this trail's built. Or what
I
do
think
you-
that makes sense. This was one that needed to get dropped off that never got dropped off.
Yeah. Okay.
Just going back to 12 for a moment, though.
Yeah.
Like, should that drop off as well as it was looked at, it's highly expensive, and move it down on the bottom of the list to say, you know, we had them look at it.
It's cost prohibitive.
It's cost prohibitive. You
Yeah.
know, I don't like dropping them off because then they get added back in 2 years and nobody knows the history. So I just like to move them to another section, another, you know,
Well,
thing
but we
that-
keep the history in that other document
Yeah.
now. So.
But I'm just thinking, like, I mean, to leave it on the like, I don't think there's any appetite to do it. Or if it stays on this list, maybe it goes all the way down to the bottom as the 20th trail or something.
Yeah.
So we'd have to. So, Ken, would we all need to go redo our priorities on that? I mean, we all sort of voted. I mean, we can.
I mean, honestly, at this point, I'm not sure it really makes that big of a difference because we're so far down the list now that we're not going to get to these.
True.
So at this point, my preference would be just not to have everybody re-vote, and we just leave it and basically ignore it and skip it if we ever get down this far. I don't know if anyone's had a chance to actually open up the board packet, but another one of for this upcoming Monday. But another one of the items is transportation projects that Alex Arenello is going to present to the board. And one of the items that he has listed in there is a hard surface trail on the east side of McCaslin that goes from Colton all the way up to Rock Creek. So basically, that would be the substitute from what we have
Yeah.
on the west side that isn't feasible due to cost. So basically what's being proposed is make the soft surface trails over there hard surface, and the spots that don't have anything right now add hard surface trail.
And
Just
Alice-
something that's out there in consideration.
Yeah, Allison, correct me if I'm wrong, the hard surface trails are the ones that get snow blowed or shoveled, or, right?
They do get plowed
Yeah.
by our, typically by our park staff.
Okay. They're basically putting in a sidewalk, just
Yeah,
not
sidewalk
on the side
all the
of
way. along here,
So there's soft surface trail all the way up to.
right about where 9, right here, to
Yes.
the entrance to High Plains, right here.
Yes, exactly. And then there's a hard surface trail that runs along the backside of the neighborhood there, all the way to the Purple Park.
Yeah.
But it's sounding like this is he's proposing a hard all the way up to the top.
Alongside the road.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically putting in a sidewalk, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't catch it. Who, or what is the proposal from?
It's
Where
from
did it
Alex,
originate?
so Alex is Director of Public Works.
It's,
Okay.
yeah, it's the Superior Transportation Draft Project List. And specifically for this one, what he's providing is that there would be all-weather surface that would connect from Colton up to Rock Creek. And it would follow the road directly. So it's basically a sidewalk that just parallels the road. So we would still have the part that gets all the way up close next to the neighborhoods, and then this additionally.
And
Oh, okay.
the purpose of that discussion, I think, is for the board to prioritize what transportation projects we want to prioritize. So this is just a discussion. It's not necessarily a done
Mhm.
deal or anything like that. It's just a discussion as to where do we want to spend our capital improvement dollars, and what are the focuses going to be. So
No, but good catch, Ken, because who wants to prioritize things that are going to get done under a different umbrella, if they get done?
Okay. Next, Coyote Ridge Trail Maintenance and Improvements.
One comment I had on that is, I took a lot of kind of feedback when we had an open house, I think it was around, the dog waste
Mhm.
issue up there. And the overwhelming amount of people I've talked to said, don't do anything to Coyote Ridge. We like it the way it is. And so I kind of hesitate to rank this one very high because I think the majority of the responses I got were, we like it rough and ready. And we all know
Yeah.
it's changed since the big flood of 2013 or whenever that was. It seems to have kind of come back in its own in the last couple of summers, I think at least.
Well, it seems like ProStack seems to want to do something in that area. They
Yeah.
proposed the embankment slide and the other trail, how to get up there instead of that steep embankment at that park up there.
Right, yeah.
So my guess is they'll rank this higher than we will.
But I'm with Joel that we heard from people who live there, so that was my thoughts exactly, is to follow the neighbors.
Okay, soft trail from High Plains Drive at the Ridge along the west side of McCaslin to Colton Trailhead. Okay. Ken, I think this was one we decided we wanted to change. This would be on the other side of the sidewalk.
Mhm.
But what we talked about in a previous meeting was amending the trail to just be from High Plains Drive into the trail here. And, we can't use the Jeep road, but we could do something else that would be grade compliant to connect up in there. So I think when we amend this, we'll get that one looking the way we think it should be.
Yeah, the discussion really was that we would have to create something that was grade compliant, which would end up being fairly costly. So what we'll have to decide is, from a priority perspective, does it make sense to have the Colton Trailhead, the future Shan Trailhead, and creating a costly access at that point as well?
Right.
I think that was where we all kind of left off and said, I don't know if that all makes sense,
Yeah.
because we can't just easily jump into that one point and then just kind of sat there dormant after that.
Right. Okay. Thank
Out
you.
of curiosity, does anyone have a guesstimate as to the distance between Shan and that access point? Should we have that access point? Like mileage, do you know?
As the crow flies, it's
From
probably
Shan
half a
Shan?
mile.
But the loop,
The loop is about 2.5, I think, by the time you go up and
okay.
and around. It's 15 minutes, which is roughly
No, I mean, from
4 minutes a mile.
from all the way at the end here to the Colton Trailhead is 3 miles.
Okay.
Just about 3. All the way around, all around the big loop and all that. But this one is fairly close to Colton, and if now there is a trail here and a light and crossing here. So I guess you have to come down here to get up into here. But an access here would give a lot of people up in here more direct access to the trail. But agreed, it was costly due to the grade.
Yeah.
Replace social trails at Community Park north of Rock Creek with hard surface. I think that one, we're down pretty far right now. I think that one would need outreach as well, because now you're putting a trail right behind some people's houses.
Well, I think the social trails pop up because people want something other than the sidewalk.
Yeah, I know. I use this trail a lot. I love this trail.
I do too.
I take my dog on there all the time.
And like I said,
love it.
I think they pop up because people are looking for an alternative to the sidewalk.
Yeah, that's why I use it. Trail along the Frico and Boco. That was supposed to come off, I think. That one.
We were told we couldn't do anything.
Yeah, Boulder
on that
County
one.
said we can't do that one. Combination hard-soft trail north of Shamrock Drive. This was for a wildlife viewing on Hodgson Harris, which we all decided without the viewing platform, this didn't make much sense, and we weren't sure if that was going to happen. And then these two were pretty much together. These are the ones that shoot off into 128th right up here. And we just, currently they're a trail to nowhere.
Well,
it would
also
hook
they
up to
won't do
128.
anything until they do
Yeah.
their
Boulder County has
That's
to revisit
also
their
grasslands
right,
thing.
Yeah.
grasslands plan.
They've got the
so-
master plan that's delayed due to flooding.
Yep.
Yes,
Um,
and they're,
so-
Do we want to even consider supporting those if Rocky Flats is developed and et cetera?
That was the other thing we discussed around it, was why, I think we spoke pretty loud and clear what we think of that. So, okay.
Can I jump back and ask a question about the Hodgson Harris Reservoir viewing area?
Yeah.
Appleton, can you confirm? I had a resident approach me very excitedly and say that in a conversation with Patrick that the town had agreed to build that platform and that would get constructed this year and that it's basically a done deal. Do you know anything about that?
I do not.
That is not what Allison's face is saying.
That's news to me as well.
I've got about a 20-second lag on the internet, so I'll see their face in a second.
Am I that transparent?
You had to.
Okay, thank you.
So I think with the only change we want to do is remove Trail 16 since it's already built. And then we're good. Anybody have any other comments or disagree with the rankings, or?
I guess my only thing is, as a group, how do we feel about, we all, I try not to look at anybody else's rankings when I rank mine, and so what I had high is pretty close to the top, and so I think I'm happy with them. Does everybody else feel like this is representative of our direction?
I do.
My only concern was the area around the reservoir, and if we wanted to have more involvement with that, given that that would be developed, should we make that a priority? But that's kind of a hot mess anyway, so that's kind of my own. I don't know.
And I think that's one of the frustrating things about this exercise. Frankly, I think us ranking this every year is an exercise in futility, because
Yes.
how often do we get these trails actually built? And then every year, things pop up that all of a sudden make certain trails a priority. We had Tract H and Tract A this year. If the Harriets gets built, then all of a sudden that trail number 8 is probably going to become a much higher priority. It's one of those things that I feel like this exercise doesn't need to occur as often as it does, but I agree. I think the priorities change just throughout the year based on what developments occur.
Right.
I would agree. I wouldn't move anything, but I think if anything comes forward from Zaharias, that we would want to be involved around those trail area and give opinions around that. That OSAC should be giving active opinions about those plans.
I agree with Ken that we go through the motions a lot on this, but I also think it provides a meaningful data point as we go to execute on some of these and say, hey, this trail has been ranked every year for the last 4 years in our top 3. And so that to me is meaningful from a historic standpoint as we try to get some of these things executed on.
Yeah. No, and I think we've done
That's an excellent point.
with Ryan's document that you guys are presenting on Monday too, of figuring out, like, when we hear that the grade is just so cost prohibitive to do something,
you're right.
that it's, good to capture that and keep it on the side and say, no, we've looked at that. Or as we know on those other ones, first we know that Boulder County's not even gonna look at anything in that Southern Grasslands thing
Right.
until 2020, maybe.
Mhm.
But then also keeping in mind that, well, how connected do we want to be over there, right? So also knowing that if they do finally do something or buy anything over there, people are going to start with the social trails
Mhm.
too. I mean, it gets kind of.
I mean, I will say, Ken, it was pretty easy to do it this time, but we've all been through it many times, so it's pretty easy. New members would be harder, but it's also a great way to learn about all the trails and really think about it. So I don't know. Anyway, thanks, Ken. A good point. I definitely feel good about it. So if anybody.
I think it's good for you guys to go to ProSAC or leadership, or the next step, whatever the next
Yeah,
step
well, I
is.
think it'll be just to take this, negotiate anything. Like if they have the same scores, sometimes they want to move something up and down, that's fine. And then just absolutely make sure that we change the map or change the descriptions to make sure we're not voting on things that are done or we know that we can't do.
Mhm.
So that'll help as well. Okay. Well, that was a long one, but that was good. So thank you all. Okay. Number 6, discuss the Hodgson-Harris Reservoir Study next steps. Discuss, if any, next steps to take regarding the results of the survey. Thank you all. Have a good evening. Yeah, thanks for coming. I guess the first question I had, Ken, did this document go out publicly? Okay.
Yes, it did. So Allison posted it to our website. I distributed it through the CAC.
Okay.
So it is out publicly now. But I think the real questions we had here was, like, do we feel that, is there anything we didn't get answered that we want to try to get Boulder County to answer? Like, if we want to try to just put, like, a specific state as far away from the reservoir or anything like that, or whether we feel this gives us what we were looking for when we requested this study to begin with.
Thinking about it, the big takeaway I took from it was that it's not in the same state that it was before the dam was rebuilt, but with the proper care and maintenance and monitoring, they feel it could be. So I think that's interesting when we talk about the Zaharias development and a reason to, we can use that point, hopefully, to get as big a buffer as we can. I don't know, Ken, I kind of agree. It would be nice if we knew. I mean, let's say that if a development plan did come from Zaharias and we say we want a buffer, but we can't say how big, that it's not as strong of an argument, I guess.
No, specific recommendations would have been very beneficial. Did you, Allison?
My biggest concern is that Boulder County did this for free, and I mean, they basically gave us what they gave us, and if I have a hunch that they're probably treading lightly in specifically putting a number out there, because then they would be kind of crossing that line of individual property rights and whatnot. They might have intentionally not put that in there. So I don't even know if we go back to them whether we get that. I mean, to get the answers we're looking for, we might have to actually hire an ecologist to actually do the work for themselves, and we put it in their statement of work. This is what we want from your results. I don't know, Allison, you guys had, from the staff perspective, more interaction with Boulder County. Is that the feeling that you were getting, or what was your take on the pulse of Boulder County?
I think that if the group is interested in knowing that making a recommendation to the board to ask for a private consultant may be the way to go. And if everybody remembers, it took quite some time for Boulder County to get back to us. So that's my basic thoughts about it.
When I read it, it doesn't match what it was.
Mm-hmm.
but I also read that it's a viable habitat as it is. So I think it's a very, like, I think it's hard. Do we try to make it back to what it was, protect what it is now? But I also feel, I guess when I read it too, I was like, you know, if I was on the developer side, I could think like, well, changes can happen because it's not really stable or stagnant, I guess, is, you know, like that it has to be something. So, yeah, I was like, oh, I guess they didn't find anything that would be like, stop, do nothing. Like, you have to protect it. It is what it, you know, some of the things that were there now because of the dam, a lot, I mean, it's kind of just all those nature things, right? Like putting the dam in allowed another species to grow more dominant and be able to take out, I'm trying to think, one frog took out the other type of frog, you know?
Yep.
I forget their exact, you know, but it just, I mean, it's just one of those things that I want to protect it, but I don't know that we would, if the board would have appetite to do a private consultant to limit what would go there, like from the buffer
I mean,
perspective.
if there was a development that came forward, would we have time to react afterwards, or do you think we need to be ahead of that? I mean, I just don't have a good feeling for that. Does anyone know?
I don't think we'd have time to react
It doesn't
as
seem
far as
like
getting
it.
an ecological study, but I'm wondering what the board, what they would be willing to enforce as far as a buffer without us having an ecological study. Like, what types of protection, and we wouldn't know that really until the time came. Do you have any thoughts on that, Mark?
I wish I did. You know, it's kind of hard to say what the board's going to do, so I can't really speak for anybody. And you know, speaking in hypotheticals about, you know, what an application, you know, could or could not have, and what the board could or could not do. I think that first and foremost, they, you know, want to have guidance from the town attorney as to what the board can do, because.
Could we ask Allison, like, I'm just curious, because it is a reservoir, is there anything in the code that says, well, it's a reservoir, you can't do anything
Not that I know
within,
of.
like, certain feet of it anyways, because it's a reservoir, but I
Right.
didn't know if there's anything that.
Not that I know of, but there is a fence around it, so I'm thinking there was probably some type of consideration for space with the fence being installed.
I think there's a difference, though, in terms of.
Because it's not a drinking reservoir,
Right,
right?
and it's not like a wildlife reservoir. It's a reservoir for purposes of irrigating the farm down the hill.
Yeah. I just
So-
didn't know.
Right.
It sounds like if we want to do everything that we can for the habitat and for the neighbors, that we should probably try to do the ecological study and propose it to the board. I don't know, what do you guys think?
Yeah, that's fine. We'll have to do it in June because we don't have quorum to
Yeah.
make a recommendation. to
Yeah.
vote on it.
I mean, my first question on just about anything is, what do we think this would cost? I
Yeah,
mean,
good point.
I've never hired an ecologist before, so I have no idea if we're talking $1,000, $10,000, you know, and that would greatly impact my decision. I think, you know, if it was a significant amount of money we would be spending to say, hey, if a development plan came forward, we would want to find out what our buffer would be, I would hesitate to say yes to that.
Okay.
We know the price, though, that you guys paid for Craig for
Mhm.
the Coal Creek, right? So, I mean,
Our
if
pre-roll
we have
jumping
that
off.
for the next time, then we might have
Mhm.
an
Oh, it's a great
estimate,
point.
yeah.
That was
Right.
a few years ago. I mean, I'm assuming we could ask for some type of quote just to have some kind of number.
Can we do that without, can you check with Patrick, can we do that without the recommendation going to the board?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Like, could we know that in June of, oh, well, like, general costs of these are X thousands of dollars, so that we would have that information?
Looking back on that, did we benefit a lot from having that information regarding the Coal Creek? Like, we all learned about pre-roll jumping mice, but
Yeah.
We had to have that assessment done for the project.
For the civil engineer thing, so. I think we.
But we didn't, well, it was different. Like, we didn't
Yeah.
learn strict guidelines, really, on the creek or.
I kind of, in the same mindset, what did we do with the information we learned?
Right,
I mean,
right.
did it change our plans? Did it affect what
I
we
think
want
it
to
did
do or
help
didn't do?
us try to push. Now, did we win every argument? But I think it helped us, I think it did help us give sort of guidelines of how big the field should be and, you know, trying to
You think
put
there was a
buffer-
positive impact?
I do think that it was positive to know that. I think it gave us some things to weight against of saying, like, we want to keep people out of the creek, keep balls out of the creek, but.
It was also planting plans and certain types of species that would support the corridor.
Yeah, that's true.
So there was a lot of information that went into the plans from the environmentalists.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I just think this one's a little different because this is really, like, there's only so much, like you said, that, you know, Zaharias is not going to have to adhere to past a certain point.
Yep.
Are we getting into gray area on Zaharias again?
No, I don't
But-
want to, that's.
No, but by asking the town to spend money on something with the goal of
Does the town,
having
does it need to
ammo-
come from the town, or can it come from the open space?
well, we won't have budget when we spend our budget.
Yeah, that's true.
So it would have to come from the
But
town budget.
I don't
I
think we're
think.
getting into gray area, because we're talking about conserving the Hotchneris Reservoir for its ecological value. So it's not that we're opposing a development on private property. We're just trying to better understand what the risks are to this reservoir that we have in town, and what we need to do to be able to protect it, if anything. I think we're okay if we want to go forward. I'm in the same boat as Joel, that I don't know if the additional information we would get would justify the cost without knowing what the cost is. Because I have a feeling would it really put that much more emphasis in the minds of the trustees when they're making decisions if they have a set number versus what they've already seen. I mean, maybe it will, maybe it won't. But I don't know if I would be able to make a decision until we know how much it would cost, at least a ballpark.
So, Ken, one other piece I remember from that document was it said that the reservoir would be at risk from runoff water within the development. So that's another angle, not just the buffer, but should there be considerations in the development for how wastewater would have to be treated, or not treated, but infrastructure built out to be able to handle that?
I think that's an absolute. I think whenever something does come forward, we have this report, we have this evidence that states that absolutely needs to be considered, and we would put that in front of the board saying that that's part of our position.
But that also might be, that line in the Boulder County report could be more justification to ask for this money, to get more specifics about what that really means. So I agree on finding out the amount. I just wanted to add that bit. So, okay. Are we good? Okay.
Good.
Skip 7. So now we get to talk about some property. So two different topics on. I guess we can turn the light on. We don't need to. Well, actually, we might want to present
I thought we
here.
might leave the
Actually,
map here, yeah.
so I got to go find the. Oh boy, what is the pros?
I can pull that up.
Okay, it might actually. Is it both? Well, you probably know it by heart. I don't yet. Sean does. He would type it right
Yeah.
in with his eyes closed. Perfect. Oh, I guess I could do that.
Can I appeal my property real quick while we're here?
Yes.
It's your property? Awesome. It's going to be easy to buy then.
Here, I have this. It's
Oh, there it is.
Properties.
It doesn't work.
Oh, perfect.
Appealed the last time.
All right, thank you,
I've done it
Allison.
the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I
So
won
the-
one, I lost one.
The first one we want to talk about is the property that's come up for sale right on the,
It's on Marshall Road, isn't it?
it's right on Marshall Road. Yes, it's that last, I guess, the westmost property on Marshall Road in unincorporated Boulder County. It's this piece of land right here. We saw there's a for sale sign out front. It wasn't originally in our 76th Street parcels in our summary report. We decided we should not include it. But, Sean's point was, well, it is fairly close to the underpass, and Louisville, we know they want to work on getting trail access from the underpass out into the open space, and so maybe they had some interest in going in with us in Boulder County to acquire the property.
Ryan, can you open another tab and do like a Google
Yeah,
Maps
absolutely.
view so we can kind of see?
Yep.
Because in that general area, there's this property, and then I think it's adjoining that there is some sort of CDOT or road
Yeah.
maintenance facility that's right in that same area.
Yep. So, yeah. So here's the CDOT. Here, let's look at the satellite.
Yeah.
So
Perfect.
this is the property right here.
Mhm.
So you've got this property, and then you've got this little sliver into this land between the CDOT facility. And then the underpass is, the underpass is still not that close. I mean, it's close, but
We're
it's
talking
not.
probably 400, 500 feet.
Yeah.
I mean, your scale there is 200 feet. So.
What were your thoughts?
Well, I have a couple thoughts. One, if you can scroll to the west just a bit, there's the Louisville Water Treatment
Mhm.
Plant. To me, my initial thought on this is this doesn't really make a ton of sense for Superior as a standalone, unless we had some sort of trail plans into this area, which Louisville's talked about how can we connect the underpass in Davidson Mesa to Mayhoff or Singletree. And so I see some value in that and the fact that they're not going to route a trail through their water treatment facility. However, there is this ditch that goes there, and there's always access issues with the ditch. I remember when Boulder County built the trail from 66 to wherever the dirt road is that comes through Superior. I'm not sure what,
Yeah, I
by
know
Sagamore.
what you're talking about.
That trail was built and done, but then held up with the company that owned that ditch to put a bridge over. It took like a year and a half to get permission to go over that bridge. And so anytime I see a ditch like that, I kind of think, well,
I thought
there's a
that-
hurdle.
I thought Boulder County said they wouldn't go over the ditches property anyways. I thought they.
Is that, I don't know
thought
that.
they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that they were like, they won't go into the treatment plant and they won't go on the ditches property.
Shoot, do we have that trails continuity document anywhere on here? Could you find that for me, please? Because we did get the proposals from Louisville on how they wanted to connect through, and actually one of them is right by that property. Let's see. Called it. Yeah, that's it. I hope you have the latest. You may not.
If you gave it to me.
I probably didn't. That would be my mistake. Okay, yeah, I can tell you don't have the
Trail
latest.
4 McCaslin. No, that's High Plains Drive. That's the wrong one.
Let's see, how far down was this? Sorry if you're giving you seizures while I do this. I gotta see here which page it was on.
That's Marshall Road there
Trail
with the
L.
underpass.
So we labeled these. Oh yeah, this one's really old because I went away from numbers to letters because we didn't want the numbers to indicate priority. Anyway, I'm staring at the latest here and I can't get it to you, but I can show you all. But it has a bunch of different connectors coming through that come right behind the treatment plant. So see, it comes right right up by the treatment plant and then up through the various ways, but nothing goes over the ditch, like Patricia said.
I thought I thought when they had said they
The
wouldn't.
ditch is up there too, though, right?
No, the ditch is, you're right, so there must be somewhere, right here they're going over the ditch, so there is one over the ditch. But then they also show this green trail coming right by the property we're talking about.
But this was Louisville, did they
Yeah,
work
this was
with
Louisville.
Boco on this?
I think so. I
Oh,
think they've
really?
been working
Okay.
with Boulder County on this, so.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which,
I mean, this is pretty old, though. I think this is 2 or 3 years old,
Oh.
so it isn't fairly.
So who knows?
I should go. I might have it in my notes here. Hopefully, I have it when this came out. Well, Patrick sent us this a year ago.
yeah.
Anyway, so but back to this property. I mean, let's say we were interested. What would we would need to make a recommendation to the board
So-
to talk to Boulder County and Louisville.
Can I go
Yeah.
back? Sean had put in an email, do we know anything from Martin or whomever about
That was
prices?
that was on a different
Oh, was
property.
it?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's on
Well,
the next
do
one.
we know anything about this one?
I
Cost, anything?
was looking at Zillow and I was seeing they were estimating between $750,000 and $1 million for 1.2 acres.
Okay.
This is.
Isn't it, Allison emailed that to you, didn't she?
What's that?
Anyway, so many emails, but yes. okay,
Yeah, so I mean, boy, I mean our going rate is 100,000 an acre.
Well, that's not very realistic anymore.
I know, but that's, I mean, but the thing is if Boulder County was willing to chip in and Louisville thought it was a high priority property.
Yeah. I
But
mean-
does it connect, does the property connect to, if you put a trail on it, can it connect to the trail? Like, does the property go all the way back to
No,
that?
it doesn't. It ends like right here.
So if we bought it, we can't go anywhere with it until
But
we
who-
buy something else,
Well, it could be a
right?
trailhead. But I guess, what do you, I mean, the appetite for somebody, I mean, if you drive by that, it's a pretty nice house.
Yeah.
So we're
exactly.
talking about buying a nice home and tearing it down and,
Yeah. We're making it the OSAC headquarters. either one.
yeah, well, that's what Allison was saying.
Genius.
She would work there.
If you buy it, right, and you don't get to buy, like, who owns behind it? Like, who
Somebody
owns-
else.
Always the key question.
Yeah.
Like, what's the property behind it?
I mean, it's the Slater property.
Well, I think you're asking the same thing I'm thinking, which that
not,
big.
not there. This is,
Yes.
This is, County of Boulder.
Okay.
And then that.
So if you
that's-
bought that, then you're adjacent to Boulder County.
But I think that might be maybe, I don't know if there's such a thing as an easement on the ditch, but it's, look, you see how this is, I think this, well, no, this is a buffer behind there. Is that where the ditch is? It's a weird piece of land.
It is. It's interesting that there's a break in it right where that property is too, right?
Yeah,
Almost
So-
like they don't have an easement.
yeah,
Like-
yeah, I don't,
Like, I just don't know if you buy it, it's 1.5 acres, and if you can't do anything with
Yeah.
it.
Right,
what
you'd
it
have to
be-
determine
I mean,
if there's
it's
any
not
private
even-
owners around or if it's all
Yeah.
connected to Boco.
I mean, but
space.
even if Superior bought it, like 1.5 acres, what can you put on that if you bought it and then it didn't go anywhere?
Yeah.
Like, is it big enough for a field to go there with a parking lot that you'd say,
Mhm.
okay, well, then the risk isn't as high, you know, because then you could put a soccer field that you could program, not that I'm saying that you would do that, but I would just be nervous, like, if you buy it and then the other ones don't come on the market,
I think we just need more information about what's
Yeah.
surrounding it.
yeah.
well, and it may not, I mean, it's been on the market for almost a month now, the way real estate goes, it might.
It's gonna be gone.
Good chance it's under contract.
Yeah.
Maybe not on Marshall, but, I mean, it's a bigger piece of land than
Yeah.
most that's around, so, I don't know. I mean, unfortunately, we can't vote on, because we would need to vote to make a recommendation tonight, so we need to
Yeah.
wait another month. So we'll need to,
Ugh.
Yeah.
we'll need to put this on hold, which doesn't bode well with.
No.
But I guess we'll just have to keep going by, and, I mean, and this is a nice segue into next week's meeting, because when we talk with, is it Justin?
Yeah.
Do I have his name right?
Uh-huh.
And this is where that organization could help by
Yeah,
already
very
having
much so.
relationships with these potential properties, so. Okay, well, I think there's some interest, but it needs to be deferred until next week.
Is it possible, I mean, Allison, can you guys from a staff perspective, like, reach out to your counterparts in Louisville and just say, hey, heads up, I know you guys were thinking about this, this property is for sale. Just wanted to throw this out there for you guys to think on and just to kind of get a pulse. I mean, clearly there would need to be partnerships anyway. If we find out that Louisville has absolutely no desire to go this route, then it kind of makes it an easy answer, because if we can't make this a trail connection, then does this really, I mean, we would need their funds as well. This is so expensive that we need partners.
Yeah, and it would
if they're not
really,
interested,
it would benefit them
no for us, I assume.
more than us. I think that they would bite at it. I would assume that they would bite it this quickly.
I think that's a really good idea, Ken. Is that something that you can do, or?
I could talk to Patrick about
Okay.
it. And once I get his feedback,
Sure.
We could know if the group has to make a recommendation to the board first, or if that,
Okay,
can be explored.
Awesome.
perfect.
I
That's
will
good.
say, because Joel, somebody, I think it was you, Joel, who mentioned Trailhead. I wouldn't recommend a Trailhead there, only because, that's what, well, because I think that's why we have Shan, like, how many trailheads are we gonna put?
Yeah.
That we're gonna be in charge. I don't know. I mean, because there are a lot of trailheads near each other, so I don't know.
I don't see it in my mind as a trailhead, more as a trail access point
Okay.
to get
That-
from Davidson Mesa to Mayhofer.
Yeah, if you could come down through here,
Okay.
into here, and then it's a place to
So
jump off.
not one that you're really
across.
putting a ton of parking or,
Yeah.
or facilities or anything. That's
Yeah.
what I'm thinking, like.
An
but you're
access
saying,
point
like, oh, you
more
can
than a-
access
yeah.
and maybe put one car or two cars.
Because to me, that's really the draw of this property, is being able to link
Got it.
together the Mayhofer South Boulder trail system with Davidson Mesa and the trails, because there's a lot of trails that go from Davidson Mesa to the north and east.
Yeah.
And so linking together big trail networks together like that, to me, is a positive. The
So
nicer
close.
structure on it is a really big pause point to me.
Yeah, me too.
Because we would want that structure to, probably be gone for our uses. And I don't know if that's.
But maybe not. Maybe the town could use it, for space, and there could still be a trail through it, even though, I don't know. Anyway,
They wouldn't
well,
have
let's see
organized
what
all
Patrick
the
says, and I think that's a good next step, and we have some direction on where to go next, so.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you. So the next piece of property was referred to us at our board dinner, and I don't remember exactly. Yeah, am I in the wrong part of town? I am in the wrong part of town. I gotta get in the right part of town. Wait, no, here we
You're
go.
there.
Right, here we go. So I'm not sure if it's this property or this I'm sorry, not that one, because Superior owns this piece of land, town of Superior, and they own this piece next to it. So I think that it's, sorry again, I'm giving everyone seizures here. It's this piece, which is owned by, I guess there isn't really a owner name, there's an address
Well,
in Jamestown.
It's an LLC, right? So
Oh, yeah, there it
somebody's
is,
incorporated.
LLC. But then there's this other property that's the same LLC. And so, I know Allison has some information for us on this.
Can you, do you mind, before she tells us that, can you just point, not click on, because it moves them all around? Which ones does Superior own and which ones
Sure,
are we owning?
I don't know how to get rid of this blue. Superior owns this, and this,
Okay.
all the surrounding, and then this is where the trailhead is today.
Right.
Right here, going off into, that's where the Coal Creek Trail continues. So here, this is that one
And we
home
own
right
the
on the corner.
bottom beneath it,
So
too.
here, we own this, we own this, we own this. Oh, sorry, darn it. Happy clicking. And we own this. So it's these, I don't know if both are for sale.
Okay, thank you.
It looks like maybe only one of them is for sale. I've got it up here, it's 7,000 square feet. They're asking $200,000 for it. I don't know, let's see if I can correlate that to, let's see, where's the size? Okay, that's,
1.38.
wait, so this must be a different piece of land then, because that's way too big. Right, this Remax site is saying 7,000 square feet. That's way bigger.
Yeah, it said around
So
60,000.
I wonder if it's this piece of land.
7339.
That's closer to it. So I guess we need to understand, does anyone have, I guess I could look up Sean's email. So I don't know exactly which piece of land it is. We need to do some more research there. But Allison does have some input for us on this.
And what I have is historical. So the Third Avenue properties have been deliberated over the years, and historically the board's position has been that no open space funds are to buy urbanized developable lots. And it was part of the original OSSRR report in the best management practices section. And so that's the kind of the background information that I have.
Are there buildings on these properties? On both of them?
I think so.
Okay, so they are both developed.
Well, in that also that they are not county lots like the 76th Street. They're rural out there, and these are city.
Urban.
Probably already
Urban.
zoned as well.
Pardon?
Zoned for
Residential.
residential or?
Aren't they zoned for like that you can put like a 6-unit dwelling on them, I think?
Well, also it has to do with the utilities
there's-
too that are extended to
There's
the
definitely-
buildings.
I mean, anywhere in here is structures.
Okay. Yeah, so actually, I think I have, you know what, I was looking at, I must be looking at the wrong thing, because Sean is showing those two pieces in his email. And then he's showing a price of $800,000 for both of those, which we need to get organized here. I'm not so sure that, but that's for 1.3 acres plus, so about 3 acres total for 800,000. So it sounds like if we were interested, we would need to get the board's take on if that's still their stance, or if they would be open to a new stance on those kind of properties. I mean, that was a while ago.
And it is platted versus like non-platted
Mm-hmm.
also.
The interesting thing, when I looked at this on we can go there on Google Maps. I don't know how possible it would be, but with owning all this land through here, and then you get, I think it's basically adding this chunk here, you're starting to own all the land around the river. And I don't know if it would be possible, but if you could actually extend the Coal Creek Trail up along the creek, it could be a really cool trail. Maybe not practical, but you're starting to get more and more of the land that you would need to do that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So adjacent to Town of Superior property and the creek are the pros, then cons are those houses, right? And then it's urbanized based on historical.
Yep.
I would say not only adjacent to Town of Superior, but also adjacent to Boulder County
Yeah, good
space.
point.
I mean, it's pretty. Anyway, I don't know. I mean, again, I think. I guess I don't know what the next steps are. We would need to, let's make sure we understand exactly which property it is. Because when Sean was driving back there, I think he saw it, but it isn't. I brought it up. I found something that showed, the address is 201 4th Avenue, Superior, which that's actually 3rd Ave. So, gosh, where is 4th Avenue, Superior? Am I even in the right state? Nope, located next to Superior Marketplace. So, I did this really last minute. So,
I mean, are we talking about further north, like above William Street, where that's?
Maybe it's maybe it's this that I'm looking at.
See, I was thinking like, see where 3rd Avenue goes up next to right in there is maybe.
Yeah, well, I need to look at this closer.
I thought it was along the creek too.
Was it?
Yeah, so I think the one I looked up here is wrong.
The 800,000?
Well, this was a 200,000 for the 7,000 square feet, the much smaller space, so I must have found the wrong one. So, do we need to make a recommendation? Or is this something else we could ask Patrick if he feels that the view of this has swung, or is that one you think we really would need to ask the town on if their outlook on that, or the board if their
Well, I think you
outlook has
could,
changed?
as a group, evaluate the parcel just like you have any other parcel. But one of the things the group might want to consider is we are going to be presenting the report at the next meeting, and these parcels are not on the report. And, just figuring out how the group feels about these specific parcels and maybe ranking them just like you have the other ones if there's to see if there's interest.
I think for us is it just wasn't on our map. We didn't even think to look for other property that was available, and maybe that's something as a group we need to do better.
Well, I guess
is
there's
looking.
That's gonna
I
be
mean, this is a
ever-changing.
neighborhood, so I mean, part of the thing with looking at other I wouldn't have looked at this because this would be like me going to Tracy's house and saying, I wanna take Tracy's house for open space, it
Yeah.
feels like.
It's a great location.
It is a great location, but I mean, we could do this for any property that came up that bordered
Yeah.
any open space.
I totally
in
agree
town.
that
So it's hard to say, my feeling on the original town space and why perhaps a resident brought this up is there has been a lot of build in original town now, so I think maybe the residents' appetite for having more open space or controlled space in original town has changed from recent years, from when the thought was, oh, you wouldn't take urban. So I think that there might be interest now from residents in that area to try to either protect or turn things back to a more open space feel than there has been in the past because of the growth of building there. I don't know if the board would have a different appetite than ones in the past, but I do think some of the residents might. That's one.
Yeah.
But my original thought, even when this came up, was we haven't really looked at residences
Yeah.
and saying let's take on residences that border open space lands and
Right.
try to acquire them. So
Yeah.
I don't know that we would want to set that precedent.
Well, but I think we're doing our job, and that
No, I think we're
looking
doing their
at-
job, but
at
that's
other
why I don't
things.
think it's ever come up as being
Yeah.
on our radar.
I feel very similar. I do pause on this particular one because of the proximity to other owned open spaces. But I tend to agree with you that it's a weird line. I mean, my house backs to open space. If you really want to, buy it, then make an offer, So I kind of get the feeling.
Well,
of,
I back to Coyote Ridge, same thing.
Yeah.
Do you want to take
Yeah.
the 10, 14 houses on Coyote Ridge and say,
Exactly. It's
like,
it's a strange kind of
Yeah.
position.
This one is a little different, that it would be one purchase to extend a pretty, 3 acres
Yeah.
of open space. I mean, Coyote Ridge would be, 14 houses would be pretty, 14 individual purchases obviously would be a non-starter, but this is slightly different.
No, I think, when it came up, it is intriguing. It would open up some of those areas. The other thing is it also could open up potential problems of what people complain about now, like you bring more people into a small section of trying to park and access there and do things, so.
Careful what you wish for.
Well, yeah, I don't know, if we purchased it, would it just be to put a thing? It is intriguing about, would you then own enough land around the creek that you could really turn that into a
Focal point of some
focal
sort.
point
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
amenity that really is enjoyed,
Yeah, Ryan's point about the creek is the most interesting thing to me about it.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think it's kind of strange, but
I agree with you on that, but also the neighbors. So if a neighbor brought it up, what do the other neighbors feel? And
Well, yeah,
what
it
would
was
be
one
their
neighbor,
input?
it wasn't necessarily.
Right. Do we know what everyone else is thinking or feeling? But sorry, Ken, I'll stop in 1 second. But Allison's point about that we're presenting the report, what are we calling it, report? But And I know that has all of our priorities, but that should be evolving and changing with
Mhm.
the work that we do with Justin. So, like, I know that's how it is now, but that shouldn't, in my thoughts, shouldn't stop us from, exploring, because that's what we're supposed to be doing.
No, I totally agree, but my point was also that, we have this process, and that, if the group wanted to evaluate it, just like we have the other
Yeah.
parcels, and then
I see.
Use the process we used in the
see what
past.
comes
Use the
out of the
process, yeah.
process, and then maybe take, whatever the group wants to do, take the next step.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Ken, you had a point?
I was just going to play devil's advocate with the creek point, that if I'm the board and I'm hearing that, and I'm also weighing how much this property is, the challenge of having it be in a residential urbanized area, and the biggest redeeming factor that it's close to the creek and we could do something special with the creek, isn't that what we're doing on the opposite side of McCaslin over with Parks 1 and 2, making that very special with the creek and making that very interactive so people can use it? I'm just running through my head all the different arguments that we would hear back if we brought this forward. I'm having a hard time in my own mind being able to justify having this be our canary in the coal mine, where we say we want to dip our toe into looking at urbanized areas and turning it into open space.
So to Allison's point that you guys are presenting the report, is there any opportunity at the end to just ask this question about urbanized areas? Like, is there any appetite, or would they not want us to look at any of it? Or, I don't know, because, the packet's already gone out.
Yeah,
like-
that's the thing. I mean, we've
like
got a
I'd-
pretty strict, we have an agenda. I don't know how much we're allowed to deviate. Maybe if they started asking questions. I don't know, Allison. Are we allowed to bring up other topics in that? I mean, is there a precedent for that, or?
Or Mark, is there a because we don't want to run afoul of, like, things went out in a public
Mhm.
thing, like, I don't know what the rules are. We can't vote
I
tonight
think it's
anyway,
a
so we can't-
discussion and a presentation, so I
Yeah.
think it's like an item.
I think it might be, I think it might detract from what we're presenting.
Okay.
I feel like we need more information on this
Yeah.
first before
Yeah.
we
I
start.
do too.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, I think
Jumping
if
on
they
it.
said, well, we're running out of space, what are your plans? We could say, well, a couple properties have come up that are more urban, and we're discussing if that's even
Yeah,
something
that
we
works,
should be
yeah.
looking at. And then we could get a feel, they may have comments and provide direction there. They might say, no, that's a horrible idea, we don't want you doing that, then we know, and
Mhm.
anyway. Okay.
I think that makes sense, because then you at least raise the issue peripherally, and you don't get off, the agenda, and then you kind of flag the issue for the board. You may get some guidance. You may not get any guidance, but at least you're raising the issue. I think in general, the more opportunities you can have and take to actually discuss issues with the board, the better, right?
Mhm.
So.
Well, the good thing is this particular topic was brought up at the board dinner, so you guys heard the same things that we did, so.
Yeah. Okay. So do we have a decision on what the next steps here are? We want to understand which property it is, but I think outside of that, it's revisit next month on if there's anything we want to pursue, if there's any more we've learned. or-
Yeah, because I think we
Yeah.
have the process. I don't know, somehow, walking on farmland seems less intrusive than walking on someone's, interior land. So I think if we go to evaluate, it's gonna be from the sidewalk, and that's that. Most
Yeah.
of them have been like that anyways.
Well, and quite frankly, if we evaluated this versus how we evaluated the other properties, my guess is this falls into the bottom tier, not the top tier, right? This isn't gonna displace CenturyLink, Rogers Farm, or Zaharias in our rankings.
No.
I just
Right.
really, maybe it would, maybe I'm wrong and I haven't seen the property, but I think we should do maybe we could all drive by it and see if we can see the sign and.
Can we do that after we get the address?
Yeah.
What's that?
After we get the address?
Oh, yeah, we need to figure out exactly. I think Sean said he tried to drive by and it wasn't all that clear exact. So we need to figure that, let's figure that piece out.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
okay. Okay, well, we are on to updates and look aheads. So, yeah, Monday, the 14th, we'll be presenting the open space summary report and recommendations to the board. So what that means is that document is done, final edits, it's gonna, it's in its final form to them. Obviously, if they would like us to change something, we'll go back and change it, but if it's approved, then it'll be done and hopefully get posted on the website pretty soon, and we'll have that done. So that will be, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
The next item was the 2 members that did interview last time. A couple of us watched it. I think pretty excited. I think they're pretty dynamic people that'll bring some energy to the board, so or to the group. So, but Allison, the process has changed now, because I remember when I interviewed, I interviewed and got approved in the same day. So now
Yeah.
it's a meeting delay. Is that how it works? Okay. So hopefully they'll be approved. I didn't see anything that says they wouldn't, but let's hope they do. Yeah, looking forward to Trust for Public Lands presentation next month. Is there anything we need to do to schedule that, or does he know?
Yeah, he knows time, and he was gonna connect with me. He was doing traveling for work, so he's gonna touch
Okay.
base later.
I guess the only thing we'll want to decide is how much time. I mean, we're thinking 30
Yeah,
minutes, an
I'm just
hour, what he thinks. I mean, because it'll probably be a little bit of presentation and then discussion.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I would definitely want to make sure we have some time for Q&A with him, because
Mhm.
I think it's going to open a can of 1,000 questions for us.
Do you think, and I know I've talked to Ken about this in the past, your report, could I send that to him? I guess if it's gonna
We just
be
wait till Monday.
approved on
Yeah,
Monday,
exactly.
It's
then-
most, I mean, I
then I'll
can't
send it
predict
him
what's
right
going to
afterwards.
happen, but let's assume if it gets approved, then absolutely immediately after we'll get it to you.
Okay, great, thanks.
It is in the board packet right now, so it's technically out publicly in a draft form if we want to get it.
That's a very good point, Ken.
I can wait till Monday, and then I'll follow up with him on everything.
Okay. So that'll be a fun meeting next time. Joint meeting with ProStack. So Ken, I don't recall, was this to discuss that we won't be having a joint meeting with ProStack, or at least that's what it's looking like, or is this a leadership meeting?
Yeah, I think this was just to circle back with everybody it sounded like everyone was on board with the leadership meeting, just to bring it up one more time and make sure everybody was okay with that, since it's a deviation from our work plan.
Yeah, I think we got email confirmation from almost everyone that that was acceptable.
Yeah, I think everybody did.
Yep.
because you guys
Okay.
recommended it.
Okay. Standing updates. So Boulder County update, the Hodgson Harris Reservoir Study and Wildlife. I mean, we talked about the report a fair bit. Is there anything else we want to bring up?
Sean's emails, he mentioned about the woman, what is she on the Arbor, no, not Arbor, help me out. Involved in the birds.
Audubon.
Thank you,
yes.
Audubon.
Yeah.
Do we want to connect with her? Does anyone know who she is? Should we just follow up with Sean next time? Because he sounded like he was the most informed on this.
She's come to open space meetings several times.
Oh, is
I've
that
been
her,
on-
the one that
on
presented?
public comment, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
okay.
believe so.
And so
Talking about
we can
Susan
find
Bauer?
her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Susan Dar?
Bauer?
Bauer. Ah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay. That was it. So we can just follow up via email about that.
Okay.
If we want to reach out to her.
Enhancement and encouragement activities. I think when we reviewed the work plan, this work plan item last time, we decided that we thought we were good. We didn't want to add any additional, actually, maybe I'm thinking of the wrong thing. That might have been outreach. Is this the wildlife enhancement and encouragement activities?
Yes.
Do we have any updates?
Yeah, it got broken up into 2 bullets instead of 1. I think it was supposed to be Smith County updates, Hodgson Harris Reservoir Study, and wildlife enhancement and encouragement activities.
Oh, there's a bullet.
Okay.
I gotcha. Okay. So this was part of, okay, gotcha.
I think this was, we were asking Allison if they had any
feedback on what type of, like, if we would tell people to plant, you know.
Right, wildflowers or.
Wildflowers for bees, or, you know, just if Boulder County had any recommendations or projects to direct people.
Well, we have done the Boy Scouts milkweed planting, so we've done that type of activity. We haven't gotten anything specific, but I'm sure they have something, you know, on their website or more information that's just
Okay.
public knowledge. if
Yeah,
we
but,
wanna-
Alton, haven't we reached out to them? I thought we've been waiting on an answer from them for months about this.
Was this, I think maybe we did this in conjunction with the Hodgson Harris
We
study.
did, it was the same question, I
Yeah.
don't know that they responded with
And-
this piece.
And you know, I'm not sure if it was in conjunction with Hodgson Harris or Shan Shan Trailhead. So, and I know we've reached back out to them for that topic. So when they respond, I'll touch base with them again to see if they have any type of information for us.
Okay.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, Rocky Mountain Greenway.
So, some interesting things have happened. They announced a summer opening, and then promptly, as we expected, another lawsuit has been filed. I've not heard anything more than that it's been filed and it's pending. One of the things we talked about via email that I think bears repeating here is that there's been many school districts, BVSD, Denver Public Schools, both, that have said no field trips for school children to that area, which I think is interesting, noteworthy at least. There is another Rocky Flat Stewardship Committee meeting. It's coming up in a week or two. I'll send that out to everybody. I just got it in the last day or two and was looking through the notes. Like I said, if anybody can attend those, I think it'd be great. I know Sandy usually does. They're always like Monday at 10 a.m., which doesn't work very well for, you know, the whole working thing. But if yeah, but they always send out the notes and the meetings from it. So always try to go through there and see if there's anything of note that comes out of there. But I expect as we get into the summer months, this will probably come to a head again.
And Mark, you told us that the last lawsuit got dismissed because there was no opening date,
Nope.
right? Like, that's why it got dismissed.
Wasn't an imminent threat, I believe.
Yeah,
Right, so
it was like a very weird kind of dismissal, not like on the merits of the
Right, so it was a dismissal without prejudice, which means you can refile. And I think what the judge ruled was that because Fish and Wildlife had not actually announced like actual plans, that it was speculative and not ripe for the court to review because there wasn't anything that was actually like imminent that was going to happen. And now that they're actually changing suit, it's the same law firm, it's the same parties refiling the same complaint that has just been updated now to reflect additional information now coming from the government saying that they're doing it. But they're alleging that they haven't completed an environmental impact statement and an environmental assessment and all the things that they're required to do before they can actually go forward with opening the trail.
Okay.
And does the board know when that environmental stuff that was in collaboration with all the surrounding towns, when that's slated to be done? I know Sandy's probably knows off the tip
When
top
the
of her head.
I'm sorry, so you said when the environmental stuff
Yeah,
needs-
so remember all the towns except for Superior joined in that
Flat thing.
agreement that all of certain study and soil sampling and et cetera had to be done prior to them funding portions of the trails, right? Am I correct?
Connections,
Connections. But I haven't heard of the results of any of that. Has anyone? Anyone know any status on that? I mean, I saw that referenced in that article,
Mhm.
that still wasn't done.
It's often very confusing to me because in the different meeting packets I get, you'll see notifications of, oh, this test was high, over a 1 month period, but the
Oh,
3
yeah,
month
those-
average is within
I know.
reason.
And that's their test, that's not the
Right,
outside.
it's not a third party independent.
Right, that was
and-
supposed to be done.
And I've not seen any
We should ask-
results from those.
Yeah, we should ask Sandy the status of that. Maybe it got done and I just never heard anything about it. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure because there's also, there are other agencies that are doing things that are related to Rocky Flats, right? So there's like the Jefferson Parkway
Oh,
Authority, and they're doing their own assessment to kind of plan for the road. So there's like the plans for the roads, and then there's plans for the bike path, the plan for the visitor center. Like all of that is kind of related, and there's all these different agencies that are working, independent of one another to effectuate whatever they're trying to do, and more often than not letting us know about it. So
Right, okay.
Yeah. I mean,
Alrighty.
we've seen plans for trails in that area. I have not seen any indication that there's been any movement towards building trails or breaking ground or anything like that. And from what I've read about the summer opening, it's like a limited number of visitors per day or week. It's some sort of cap on
Oh, really?
the people that would come in. And I'm not even sure what you would visit at this point when there's no structures, there's no trail. I mean, it's just gonna be grass. So,
It is funny that every time we see a trail plan, it's different, though.
Absolutely.
I don't think we've seen a finalized plan or anything close to it.
it moves every single time.
Yeah. Okay. Anything on Shan Shan?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay.
We're waiting.
Refresh my memory, we're just waiting for Boulder County to get back to us with those initial plans.
Correct.
And what their opinions are of those. Okay.
but we're also in a holding pattern with respect to the owner of the Rogers property. So
Yep.
all of that is kind of in limbo right now, and I think we need to have discussions with Rancho Capital about what their plans are. And I don't know if they're going to develop it, if they're going to sell it, if they're just going to sit on it, and
Oh, really?
how that necessarily will affect if and when.
Yep.
The trail's one part, and then the trailhead's another part, right?
Mhm.
So
Right.
and parking lot access, all that is. It makes sense, I think, and I think the board's position is it makes sense to do it all at the same time.
Right.
But on our last meeting, I thought we had slightly different discussion where we said, let's get the trailhead and we may get access differently. Like we might use that fire road as a temporary access or something to get it into the fully designed trailhead. But try to move that forward regardless of the development. So maybe that's changed now?
Well, I think insofar as we need to talk to Boulder County about the trail, we're doing that, right? And we're waiting on Boulder County. But then the ultimate question is, how does that all affect access and parking and all that stuff? And that's kind of the unknown variable.
Okay.
Mhm.
But regardless of what Boulder County says, we'll need to have that second discussion as well to make sure that it's, viable and done right.
Because I guess the risk there is if they were going to sit on it, well, I guess if you knew, you could make a decision. But we think that that's budgeted for next year, the construction. I think that's the latest we discussed. Like there was money for plans this year, slated for development next year, but obviously that can change. Depending on what happens, so, okay. So the last thing we need to do is put together pros newsletter bullet items.
Can I ask
Oh,
Allison
yeah.
one thing?
Yeah, sure.
About minor thing dogs at Trails Day. Did those sandwich boards get made, or did that?
Well, I was kind of confused about where we landed on that because there were so many different, we talked about so many different things. We talked about the rattlesnake one. We talked about
Oh, I don't. Did you talk about
the
that last meeting?
dog
Yeah.
one. And then we talked about our trails map. And we've talked about e-bikes and Rocky Mountain Greenway.
Oh, so Rocky Mountain Greenway would be an 8x11 that we just
Same thing
have
with the
on the
e-bikes.
table. Yeah, and the e-bikes would just be some
Paper,
bullet
laminate.
points.
And we're gonna have passports, and
Yeah.
we're gonna have the trails map from,
Chili Fest or 4th of July. Oh,
The Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you.
Yes.
Chamber, from the chamber. So, and now we're gonna have dog signs to keep back from the tents. So maybe we should just talk really quick about what signs,
Okay.
Okay.
to make sure that I have all of them.
Sure.
Well, which signs do we have that are already done that we just have to bring?
So I can print on a plotter just about anything.
No, but don't we already have some that are already printed
So
that we
we
just show
have-
up?
We
Trails
have the
map.
dog poo one, like.
Right.
We have the dog poop. and
From
we
last
have-
year.
And we have the trail map from last year. So we have those two ones.
Do we know that we know where those are?
What's the dog one look like? I don't remember.
The dog.
It was like a cycle and you.
It was a cycle, like this is
Oh,
what
yeah,
happens
yeah,
when
yeah.
you don't pick it.
Yep.
Up. Like it doesn't break down, it's,
Mhm.
you know, and then we have the trails. So
But
we
those
have
are
the-
just,
They're on poster board, like, that, you know,
oh, I don't remember that at all.
we put them on the table, clip them to the table.
Okay.
And I thought one of you guys took that home after 4th of July, and that's why I thought you had the banner, but then in
I
Chili
do,
Fest,
I
it
do have
made
the
it back-
banner.
But in Chili Fest, I think things got back in the boxes.
Yeah, I took it
so-
after 4th of July, but I checked and I don't have anything
So
in my
you
basement.
brought it to
Yeah.
Chili Fest, and then I think it's probably again in some one box.
Easily printable. I
Okay.
just,
Okay.
yeah, I can do it on the plotter.
I have the National Trails Day banner.
Okay.
It's in my house.
And I have the OSAC banner.
She has the
Okay.
OSAC banner. I have the box of extra
Doggy.
dog bags,
Okay.
so I'll bring that swag. I was gonna bring it to Arbor Day.
And Ken has the emergency kits.
And Ken is,
Yep.
so I guess from
I
the
have the emergency
signs.
tickets, I have the swag, and I will get the raffle tickets, the waters, and the snacks.
Okay. So then Trish proposed a
Sign about just keeping the
standing
dogs
back.
out
So I
the
think
tents,
one
yeah.
would be sufficient if we could do a sandwich board that stands on its own somehow, or so it.
Or clips to the tent or something to say back, or if it's gonna be like no dogs beyond this point. you
Yeah,
know,
that would be ideal. Is that
Just
doable?
one?
I think one is fine. I don't think we need to-
I can print that.
Okay.
That's no problem. And I can ask Katie if I can use some of there's like some boards
Mhm.
that you could slide posters into that we can use.
Perfect. And then can we do 2 dog education ones or 1 dog education one that we can put closer to the trail?
I think-
That I sent around a long time ago. Like one has a coyote on it that says doesn't play nice and, you know, has a
I
dog
think
running away
last
from
time we
it.
decided we only wanted to do one, just
One?
because it was
Perfect.
too much, and that was the rattlesnake one.
The
I
rattlesnake,
think that's
okay.
the one we settled on. But
That's
it was
great.
the same thing, right? Keep your dog on leash because
Perfect.
there's rattlesnakes out here.
So 1 and 1. Does that work, Allison?
So I've got dog waste, trail map, dogs back from birds, and rattlesnake.
But the dog waste and trail map are already done, right? Or you're gonna redo it?
We're
if
not
we
sure
can't
where
find
it
them,
is,
Sure.
so I
just
can
reprint
redo
them.
that.
Great.
Yeah,
But
might as well
those
just
just don't
reprint them. I mean,
reprint
why
Okay.
not? The other ones were getting a little,
Yeah,
Ratty and.
yeah, a little ratty, so.
Okay.
that's true.
Does that
Okay.
work?
Yeah,
Awesome.
that's fine.
Cool. Okay, are you good, Allison?
I am.
Awesome. Okay, pros newsletter bullet items. I kind of massaged what we had here, so maybe I can just propose these. And so I was going to say on the first one, published the open space summary and recommendations report rather than finalizing. On the second one, I was thinking deciding on the Hodgson-Harris Reservoir Ecological Assessment next steps, because I think that's a hot topic, but we are deciding what to do next after having the summary, had National Trails Day, and maybe some statement about the success or something, or a successful National Trails Day. We'll have to wait till we get past
So these are the
that.
ones going out on Friday.
These
and
ones,
then-
yes, these ones. These are the ones I'm proposing that will
So,
sort of
yep,
line
yep.
up for. I mean, we'll need to
The June,
finalize
yeah.
them, but having them close, I think, will
Yeah.
be good. You know, the fourth one, I think we should drop because we figured that out. So I was then proposing something around the trails priority list. So maybe developing the trails priority list with ProSAC or refining or
Mhm.
something like that. Does that
Another
seem?
option is hopefully welcoming 2 new members to the committee.
Oh,
Oh, that's
I like
nice.
that. It could be 5. I think we'd be okay with 5, right, Allison? You're not going to cut us off? Okay, thank you.
And then I had something to add to that one. One of the topics that we added to our work plan was the cleanup date.
Yep.
And we have 2 other smaller events during the year, which is the Keep It Clean Colorado and National Day of Service. And I talked to my
Oh.
team, and one of the suggestions was that on maybe September 22nd, we kind of combine all 3 of these things together to try to make a bigger
perfect.
impact. And since we're
think that's
doing it
great.
at 3 different times that are they're kind of falling close to each other on some years, and maybe we should just combine them, and what the group thinks about that.
I think that's.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Makes things simpler and have bigger impact.
Mhm.
Don't see any downside.
Great, so September 22nd maybe for our cleanup, and then kind of, have that on our radar to talk about marketing, and usually we'll have some type of camp or team do something for one of them, like Keep It Clean Colorado, and then National Day of Service. Sometimes we'll have a business or 2 that are looking for things to do, and then we were doing our weekend of cleanup, and then maybe we can package it nicely.
That's great.
That's great.
I sent out an email that some school in Denver is using dog waste pickup for detention,
Oh,
which I thought was
gosh.
pretty comical. I'm not suggesting we do that here, but
Oh, I think so. I
We
use it with
do
my
have
kids.
the
I was gonna say, that'll
elementary
work with my
school
children.
Yeah.
volunteering
They hate that.
Friday to clean up Coyote Ridge, which is really cool.
Wow. Which one? Superior or El Dorado?
El Dorado.
Cool.
Cool. Must be the middle school. Because I hadn't heard anything from the kids.
Yes, the older kids.
Okay, well, that's the agenda. Anybody have anything else they want to bring up?
The only other thing I was going to ask about, because I haven't heard anything about it from this committee, and I found it interesting, is on the Coal Creek Trail at the intersection of the 36 bike path, there's a new sign that's talking about the future parks that are going in and things like that. And I was curious if we knew what the origins of that were. Was it ProStack, or is it town, or does anybody have any idea where that sign
I
came
think
from?
there's one right
The Coal
over
Creek
here, too, by
Enhancement
the-
Project
Yeah, it
signs?
says like coming future parks area, and it's up kind of where you make the left turn to go up the 36 bike path, and I just noticed it and thought it was probably timely. I've had a lot of people that ask about the trees, along Coal Creek and things like that, and what's going to happen. So whoever did it, I applaud the effort. So,
It was our department.
no, nice.
Cool.
Nice.
Nice job.
I had one question as well. At the dinner that I wasn't at, Sean told me that there was some talk about us collaborating on the tree. I don't remember the details.
The
That
tree-
plan, I know exactly what you're
Oh,
talking about.
perfect.
That
Fill me in,
plan
awesome.
is on the planning department's page, and you can see the trees and the plantings that were recommended by the environmentalists for the areas.
Are we supposed to have input on that, or what?
I
What
think
was
that's
the-
all done, isn't it?
Yeah, it
Was
was
it?
all
Okay.
done. And so when we did that creek walk, the environmentalists went over the plantings and the types of trees that
Oh,
were
okay.
non-invasive and native.
Yeah, we did it
Plantings.
there. I think, one of the things I think
wonder
that
what he was
wasn't
referencing.
well understood, I think when these trees came down, and I think it's great that you guys put out signs, is people don't,
They didn't-
people don't understand the invasive species versus what should naturally be, what
Yeah.
should be supported here, so that's great that you guys put it out there, but, yeah, I think, we didn't do anything more with the input other than, he did the input of this is what should be in this area
Oh, okay.
around
Okay.
the Coal Creek, and this is what's native to Colorado, and we said, that's great.
Great, okay.
I
And
don't
you
know
could
that we
find
could-
all of that if you wanted to look at it too, if you were like
Okay.
really interested. It has all the names and how many and.
Nice. That'll be exciting to see.
Yeah, it's exciting, I think, but we kind of went with, he's the expert, so, I'm not gonna tell you to put up cottonwoods or do this or do that, like,
Yeah.
he came up with what should thrive in that area and make things thrive.
Yeah, I was like I said, I was glad to see that sign just for the fact that the more out in front people see it and start to talk about it, and then maybe they're looking for it in an agenda or a newsletter or something like that, so we get the most feedback and input from the community that we can. So glad to see that.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Okay, well, let's call it a night.
All right,
Thank
I-
you all very much, appreciate it.
I have
Oh,
one thing I wanted
sorry,
to bring
Ken.
up.
sorry, Ken.
No worries. So in the board meeting on this upcoming Monday night, as part of the street upgrades, we talked about Trail A is included in there. I was just wondering if we could quickly get the pulse of everybody in the group. So Tract A is budgeted for $50,000, and they have that $50,000 coming out of the open space fund. I mean, it's kind of unofficially, we've never truly sat down and made a statement one way or the other, even discussed it in great detail. It's always kind of just been an implicit, but I mean, my understanding was it was always the group's opinion that if we're going to touch the open space fund for large expenditures, I mean, we know there's kind of some recurring maintenance type stuff that comes out of it, but if there's a single large expenditure, that we'd want to see it ahead of time so we could at least voice an opinion. I know I'm fairly confident that none of us would say no to Tract A, but am I assuming that correctly that is our position, and is this something that we want to bring up to the board or somehow to say, hey, as we do have large expenditures come out of the open space fund, we want to at least be asked about it?
It's interesting that that it wasn't brought up to us, I think. So I'm glad you're bringing this up.
Well, but was it? I mean, remember, this was originally going to be built almost when Tract H was built, and I think we discussed it. I don't know if we discussed it then or not, but we might have actually
Did we?
already discussed this. I don't recall.
Well, we discussed that H didn't make any sense until you had A in, because it kind of went nowhere. So I think
Mhm.
we've been aware that this tract was going to come up, and the general feeling has been from the board that my position from the board has been that open space funds was taking care of that whole buffer area, and this kind of just seems an extension of that buffer area. Right.
But I get Ken's point, so.
No, I get it
Yep.
there.
I mean, I would say as a general topic, absolutely. I would like to at least be able to provide input and say, you know, as one member of OSAC, I do or do not approve of this, or what my feelings are on it. On this one, I generally approve of it. And so I'm fine with it, but I do think the bigger topic of, you know, if they're spending money or proposing to spend money from the budget that, you know, we sit on the committee for, I think we should at least discuss it.
Agreed.
So I'm planning on sticking around for the board meeting on Monday night. How do you guys feel about me making a public comment to the basically extent that we don't disagree with this as a committee, but we just are requesting that when there are large expenditures that come out of the open space fund, that they first come before us so we can at least opine and give an opinion to the board, which is why we're here, so we can help advise the board. And just kind of bring that to light.
Yeah, I think that's great. Does anyone oppose or have more discussion about that?
I think it can start to get contentious.
And I'm fine not doing it either. I just noticed it again. It's happened in the past, so I just wanted to get the pulse. I'm fine not doing it. I just wanted to see where everybody landed.
I guess my thought is, you know, part of the reason of doing the presentations was because they wanted to move out the sort of public comments from committees in the public comments section. So.
The problem was we were never given an opportunity to present on this because we didn't really know it was coming down the pike.
No, I definitely realize that. I just think this is part of it, you know. I agree with everything you're saying, Ken, but it also feels like we spiral on this like every 3 months because like things get said or we think that it's going to be one way and then we think we have direction or we think something's going to be agreed upon and then then something like this comes up where we see it on the thing and say, wow, we would have thought that that would have happened, and then it feels like we could be considered somewhat aggressive to go then and bring it up in public comment yet again.
I would imagine that the budget probably reflects this anticipated expenditure for this year. So, I mean, I don't recall, like, actually during the budget process, if we specifically said, oh, there's gonna be $50,000 for this trail, but that seems like at least one of the opportunities for when it could be discussed. And it may have been discussed, or it may have, at a minimum, been in the
Well, I
draft
think one of our
proposals,
things
so.
is that we know that this fund is used for maintenance or building of things, so I don't know if it was completely pulled out. I do remember discussions about it. So I don't know if that would, like, if the board would feel like, well, that happened in the budget process, you knew it was there, we said that, we were gonna take trail money and it was for X amount of money. And I do wanna say that there was like some number in there for trails or maintenance, maybe not necessarily track A. So I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence, I guess, at the end of the day. I would go either
Yeah,
way, if you wanna mention it or not. I just don't know that there might be blowback on that.
Yeah, Ken, my opinion, I think we might be splitting hairs with this one. I think that what we're doing is the right thing of looking at the board packets, and if we saw something we didn't agree with, then we could bring that up. I just think this one might not go well for us.
That all good points. I'm there with you guys. It's not something we would oppose. So we'll leave it alone, and hopefully we don't run into this in the future with something that we do oppose.
I do think that for OSAC to properly advise the board on like acquisition projects, I think it would be beneficial for OSAC to have a clear idea about how much money is in the fund, how much money is coming into the fund, and how much money is going out of the fund on an annual basis. And that could be done very simply, rather than just kind of burying it within the budget. So, to the extent that we're talking about process improvement, raising the issue and just saying, we're not saying that you shouldn't be paying for this out of the OSAC fund and it should be coming out of something else. We're just saying that for us to do our job, it would be helpful for us to know, what the balance is, what the inflows are, and what the outflows are.
Yeah,
if this is one of those outflows, let us know, because that's $50,000 less than that we can use for, the CenturyLink property or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, which Allison has given us. She has given us when it comes out.
Yeah, we did that recently, I thought.
We did that
Yeah.
recently, and like I said, I know that Paul, when he does the budget, there are clearly things that are marked. I just don't know that they're clear that, like, other than say, oh, it's gonna be $250,000, and now we know it's $50,000 for tract A, so.
The problem with the budget is that there's so much information in there, and if what OSAC really cares about is, these
Sliver.
simple, what our total balance is, and
Yeah.
what we're taking in on an annual basis or on a monthly basis, and then
Yeah.
what our anticipated annual expenditures are going to be. I think that that's just a simpler way for OSAC to just better understand and do its job.
And I do that every year. Typically, I get an update from finance, and, it occurs pretty early, like in the first quarter or second quarter, depending on what's shaking out. But, and we've also attached with the summary report a year-over-year expenditures and everything to the packet, too. So, and if the group wanted that more often, that could be.
Well, for next meeting, would that be beneficial to have?
Well, we just did it.
Yeah, didn't we did
last
it
month, or-
we
I think
did
it'd be
last
helpful
month.
for the new members that are coming on.
For the numbers and for talking with Justin about what we actually have in our budget
Yep.
and
Yeah.
what property do you think you should attempt to tackle first, and et cetera. Could you just
I think
provide
in the
that so we
summary
can?
report, we only put the amount, about the approximate annual amount that we bring in. And I think I remember about what the balance is, but if we could get those numbers. And the actual annual outlay would actually be good. I don't remember that number.
No,
How much
I
for
don't either.
maintenance?
I can ask for an update,
Okay, that'd be
but
awesome.
it's only been a couple of months,
So
or
we
maybe
just
a
need to go
month.
back and look at the original. I think it might all be there. We might just need to refresh our memories.
I think given that
Yeah.
you're getting 2 new members, I think it would be helpful to know the total amount in the fund, the total amount in the fund that is owed, that is being repaid, the total amount that comes in estimated on an annual basis, and then what the expenditures are for 2018 that have been approved through the budgeting process, and what's actually been spent and what's to be spent. I think that would just be helpful for somebody who's new to the committee to just kind of understand the landscape.
That'd be great.
Agreed. All right, Ken, you happy with that answer?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I got what I was looking for. Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Thanks for calling in.
All right.
Are
I'd
we
say
adjourned?
we're adjourned. So thank you all very much.
All right.
Thanks.
So
Ken, have a good night.
I
Yeah.
will type these up. No, you have to look every year. So go, because now I can go.
I'll put it on the website.
Now I do the site. Two systems.
Just like a
Start
link
one,
of, like,
and then go like, if you can,
where your
like,
tax dollars
1.5 per
are going.
mile. For open space, certain ones now, I put them onto normal speed on this sound.
So slow.
They're very slow. And sometimes I have to go back, but it does help, and it takes like an hour to get to,
Yeah.
30 minutes. So then.
Oh, yeah,
because
because when I
present
present it to them,
so I need to.
I have quite a few I listen to, but
Yeah.
I also just kind of have them in my ear at times throughout the day. And then,
Well, that's the other thing, like I do it in the background.
Thank you, Ken. Oh, he's gone.
Yeah.
Thanks, Allison.
Almost 11. I'm sure he's going to bed soon.
Okay.